Okay, she be gone every single night. Day and night on my mind, pushing a cute vibe.
How's it going, everybody? This is Top Driver. Hope you're having another great day, and welcome back to another video. Alright, so this one's going to be a bit more of a mellow video. Today I'm going to be talking about why autistics struggle with relationships. Now, as I've mentioned multiple times in some of my previous videos, autistic people are some of the most talented people there are in this world. They're probably some of the best people that you can be with and just hang out with whenever you're outside hanging out with friends and all that stuff. However, at the same time though, those autistics still have a lot of struggles with being able to start friendships and also maintain those friendships for a long period of time. And so I'm going to share with you a few reasons as to why autistics struggle with this kind of thing. Now, as I've mentioned before, autistics, they are known to do so many things in their life that are amazing. You know, they can get some really good jobs, obviously, and be able to succeed whenever they are expected to. You know, there are some that have been able to live independently as well. But you know, if there's one thing that autistics really like to have more than anything else, is to just have friends. You know, obviously, autistic people, they usually are the ones that tend to be some of the loneliest people out there, and usually they just like to have at least one or two friends. But hey, a whole web of friends that they can have with them, it makes their lives a whole lot happier. Unfortunately, there are so many factors that prevent them from being able to do that. It's very hard for them to be able to do it in this world. And take it from me, I too have had difficulties with being able to maintain friendships because of my autism. But these are really just the main common reasons as to why autistics struggle with this kind of stuff, because it is not easy for them, unlike everybody else in this world without it, to be able to build those friendships and maintain them for a certain period of time or even the rest of their lives. The first reason is poor communication, and obviously that is one thing that we all know that autistics tend to have the most trouble with, and that's with communication. You know, usually you are expected as an autistic, whenever you're speaking to somebody, to build a long-term conversation with somebody, and unfortunately they just have a lot of problems with doing that. As we all know, there are some autistics that don't say their first words until a lot later in life, and obviously there are a lot of other autistics that, you know, that can build short-term conversations, but when it comes to long-term ones, they just stumble and they struggle to just find the right words to say, or just, you know, like, say something that's relevant to what you're talking about, and as a result, you know, they just shut down. They just struggle to be able to continue with a conversation because, you know, they're unable to figure something, or, you know, just say something that can help start a conversation or at least keep it going. And that's the problem, because, you know, while autistics, they are very talented and very smart people, you know, there are just so many of them that just struggle with this kind of thing, that they aren't able to build that huge web of friendships that allow them to be able to carry that throughout their lives. And unfortunately, there are some that just haven't been able to find ways to get out of the house and just have those conversations and just spend some time with their friends, all because they just struggle to build the right words and just build the ability to be able to have a proper conversation with somebody, so that way, you know, they can just have a lot of fun with them. And, you know, take it from me, you know, usually in most of my group conversations that I had in school, I would usually just be the quiet one, because, you know, I just had a poor ability to be able to communicate with a whole lot of other people. You know, I would just be staying there just listening in, and really the only time I would say something is if somebody said something back to me, or just, you know, said hello to me or something like that. You know, I'm just a very shy guy, and unfortunately, you know, because of all the time that I usually spend at home and away from other people, unfortunately, I'm just struggling to be able to find a way to communicate with everybody else whenever I'm out of the house. So yeah, obviously it is a struggle. You know, communication is obviously one of the reasons why you need to be able to succeed in life. But unfortunately, it's just one reason why autistics struggle to be able to do that and also build the friendships that they need. The second reason is because a lot of anxiety, and there's a lot of pressure to have to be able to maintain some sort of friendship with somebody else, whether it's at school or if it's somebody at work, or maybe even just somebody at home, like with a family member or something like that. Now, obviously, whenever they are asked to, you know, present something in class as well, you know, the autistics, they are expected to speak right in front of the class for a whole, like, 2 or 3 minutes, or maybe even longer than that, and actually present something without having much of a problem. Unfortunately, there are a lot of autistics that just get very scared of doing that, because, you know, having to speak in front of a whole bunch of people, you know, hey, that can be a really big problem, because there's just so much anxiety in them them that they're scared that if they mess up, they'll end up being laughed at or end up getting into a whole lot of trouble. When I got my job in New Jersey Symphony, I had to speak to like 8 people, and that was the most amount of people that I have ever spoken to when I was doing a job interview. And you know what? Somehow I was able to succeed. I really still don't understand why, but you know what? It was because I was able to build that communication, get rid of that anxiety that I had in all my previous interviews, and just be able to have a conversation with them to go along with the interview, and just just have a friendly chat with them. And ultimately it led to where I am right now. But even then, whenever I'm having a tough conversation with somebody, like with a friend or something like that, there are times where I just mentally shut down, because unfortunately, it just gets me into a situation where I just get so uncomfortable, or I just don't feel like that I really want to say anything, because I know that it's not something that I want to talk about, that I just end up shutting down. And unfortunately, that just makes it very hard for me to be able to communicate something without breaking a bond or a friendship or something like that. There are so many autistics out there in this world that struggle with being able to overcome the anxiety of speaking to everyone, because speaking to others in a normal conversational way is not usually their thing. Unfortunately, there are so many struggles that keep them from being able to have those relationships that unfortunately it just becomes a lot harder for them to be able to do that long term. And so unfortunately, the more anxiety they get, the more they struggle with being able to speak to everybody. And even in those tough situations, it is something that they tend to struggle at a lot. The third reason, having to start over. Yes, obviously I do mean that, because if one friendship ends because they have to go somewhere else, or because things just didn't work out, they have to start over again and again and again. And I have been through that way too many times in my life. As I mentioned before, I've moved around quite a bit. I was in Union to start out with, and then ultimately I was in Chatham for a few years, and then I was in Livingston, and then ultimately in Kinnelon before I ended up relocating here in Springfield. And every single time, when I was at one school, I had built up so many friends that I felt like I had that web of friendships, whether it was through my after-school sports or in my classes, or maybe even a few clubs or something like that. I was able to have those friendships so that way I can be able to have some time outside the house just to be with them. Unfortunately, every single time, my mom, she kept moving me to a new place because of rent issues, and every time I tried to hope that I can somehow see them again, unfortunately I wasn't able to do that, because we just kept moving and moving and moving. And unfortunately, it was a reason why that I was just not able to continue to build on those relationships that I had with them and just continue them as well, because I just kept moving a whole lot. And the next thing, obviously, is just work friends. Obviously you're at work, obviously, and you have a whole lot of friends at work, and so obviously you feel like that you want to be with them forever. But unfortunately, there's a time where you are ultimately going to find a new opportunity, like I know I will someday, and ultimately you're going to have to move on. Or there are some friends that you have at work that get an opportunity for themselves and they have to move on. It's just a real struggle to be able to continue those relationships when you're an autistic. I mean, obviously the best way to do that is just, continue to communicate with them outside of work. Just have a call with them, text them, or just find a way to see if you can get together or hang out with them at some point, obviously. But it's just really hard to deal with that, because, once they move, your fear is that, the longer and longer that you go without them, the more you're going to forget that they were ultimately sort of work colleague or something like that. And unfortunately, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be able to remember everything that happened and, just continue those friendships, because it's just so hard for you to be able to move on from that particular instance that unfortunately, you just feel like that you're a lot lonelier than ever. Trust me, if there are a few reasons why friendships end very easily, it's because you kept being moved around a lot, and ultimately it just became a lot harder for you to be able to communicate with other people outside of where you usually live in as a result. And unfortunately, I've been through that way too many times as an autistic, and unfortunately, that's where a whole lot of autistics tend to be at as well. And finally, I think a key reason as to why autistics struggle is, being able to build and maintain a best friend. Obviously, autistics rarely ever have a best friend, but usually when there is one that they tend to have, they usually just carry on with it for as long as they possibly can, because, there's just somebody out there that they tend to have a lot of fun with, they have a lot in common with, and they just have a whole lot of fun with them. But unfortunately, bonds tend to be broken very easily whenever you have a best friend. Obviously, autistics tend to struggle with being able to follow a whole lot of things, or, just, understanding exactly what they're saying. And unfortunately, that's the reason why best friendships, unfortunately, tend to end. Or, as a result, it could be, as I mentioned before, moving to a new location or something else happening that unfortunately keeps it from continuing. There are so many factors that prevent them from being able to continue to have a relationship with a best friend, or even have those best friends in the first place. You know, for a few years when I was in Chatham, I had a best friend named Andrew. You know, obviously I was with him for 4 years there from middle school and my freshman year in high school, and I thought that was going to be a friendship that was going to last forever, you know. I was having a lot of fun with him. We enjoyed talking trash about our sports and, you know, all that stuff. Unfortunately, you know, once I was forced into moving to Livingston, I wasn't able to continue that friendship because my mom wouldn't let me get out of Livingston so that way I can see my best friend. Unfortunately, it just proved to be a real problem because, you know, I wasn't able to see him personally again, though I still follow him on social media, obviously, which I do enjoy. Then a couple of times I mentioned before, I had a friend named Tito, obviously. You know, when I was in Union College, you know, I was able to hang out with him a lot when I was the Phi Beta Kappa Alpha Xi chapter, you know, just do a whole lot of events with him and, you know, just have a lot of fun with him. You know, we had a lot of fun stuff that we did together. But unfortunately, when he died in December during my last year there at UCC, unfortunately, it was another best friend that I lost. Not because of a relocation or something like that, but because of death. And it really became so hard because for the next few months after that, I ended up in such a depression that not only was it hard for me to be able to continue to talk to friends and try to get over it, but it was so hard that I ended up overeating and ended up becoming obese, obviously. Obviously, I'm in the best shape of my life now, but, you know, obviously it felt like another hit in my heart, unfortunately, because I wasn't able to continue that friendship, all because of something unexpected. As I said before, you know, spend as much time with them as you can, because obviously you'll never know when your time will come, or if their time will come to go across the Rainbow Bridge and go into heaven. And unfortunately, I just did not expect that with Tito. And then just more recently, as I mentioned before, I've made so many friends at New Jersey Symphony, and there were just a couple of best friends in particular that I made when I was there at New Jersey Symphony over the last year. I'm not going to mention who they are here because at this point I think it's pretty clear if you've seen my social media, if you know who they are. Obviously, you know, I spent so much time with them during the first year there at New Jersey Symphony, and I just had so much fun with them. But unfortunately, as I've mentioned before already, they're in Philadelphia now, and unfortunately, you know, my fear is that I won't be able to see them again for such a long time because, you know, I just struggle to communicate with them effectively, and, you know, just being able to, you know, just have that conversation with them, or just, you know, like minding my own business and just having a whole lot of fun. I mean, I'm hoping that this is not directed to them, obviously, but, you know, the reason why I struggle to move on from them, moving away to another opportunity, is because, you know, I feel that the moment I do move on from them, that's the moment that I'm going to forget that they were even my colleagues in the first place. And if that happens, boom, friendship over. It's like I never even know them. And really, it's just hard for me to be able to get past that. And, you know, unfortunately, that's a whole lot of other autistics have troubles with as well. The moment they move away from a best friend, or somebody as a best friend moves away from them, they feel that the moment they move on from it, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to remember them or remember that they even had that friendship with them. And unfortunately, they're going to feel like that they're just a whole nother person. And yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, I really love to get the opportunity to be with them in Philadelphia again, but I just don't know when that's going to come. But, you know, obviously, if there is an opportunity for you to be able to revive a friendship with somebody, you know, obviously that's something that an autistic really needs to learn to do. And unfortunately, you know, it's just hard for them to be able to do that because of their communication struggles. But that is something that I do think can be worked on. So yeah, personally, it is hard for me as an autistic to be able to continue building on friendships and make new ones as well, because I just get a whole lot of anxiety when it comes to trying to build my communication. And I just really struggle to comprehend everything that's going on when a best friend moves away for a new opportunity, or if I have to move away to a new location or something like that. And I'm sure that's what every single autistic struggles with as well. But obviously, the best way to handle it is just, you know, make every moment last. You'll never know when your day is going to come. You know, you want to build as many of those friendships as possible, so that way when that time comes, you know, you've built this whole web of friendships and these whole web of memories that you can cherish them for the rest of your life. You can be able to store them in your memory bank, and when you look back in time, you remember those and say, hey, I had so much fun with these guys. You know, these were my best friends, and these were the people that I really enjoyed being around with. And really, the best way to do that is, if you're somebody without autism or IDD, is to just be there with them all the time. You know, when they're down or they're feeling like that they're lonely and they're just struggling to be able to just have a friend or just be with someone, you know, just give them encouragement. You know, just give them a lot of help and just be there for them every step of the day. Because really, most days, the only thing that autistics really want is just a friend. Even if it's just one friend in particular, you know. If you're there with them for that time, it'll make them cheer up. And obviously, it'll make you trust you a lot more, obviously. And it will be a lot better off in the end for those autistics to be able to build that friendship and to be able to communicate a lot better. It's not easy in today's world to live with autism. There are so many factors that are out there in this world that makes it hard for you to be able to step out of your comfort zone and be able to build on those friendships, you know. All that anxiety we get to be able to communicate and build on those friendships, it just gets so much harder to be able to do that as time moves on and we get older. However, obviously, as we get older, the more we learn on this, the much easier that it will become for us autistics to be able to have those conversations and have those friendships with all those other people. But there needs to be a lot done to be able to maintain that. So if you know somebody with autism, or if you're somebody with autism that really wants to have a friendship and, you know, just have a successful life, do the best you can with them. Obviously, just try your best to be able to learn from your communication mistakes and try your best to just be the best person that you can possibly be. You know, just succeed, and also, you know, just have those conversations with them every day and just be yourself, because if you can, not only will you have a whole lot of friends, but also you'll have a lot of memories that you'll be able to carry for the rest of your life. Trust me, it'll be a lot easier in the future if you can do that. Anyways, that's gonna do it for another video. I hope you all enjoyed it. As always, if you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when my latest video is released. Comment below for future suggestions for all my videos, whether it's vlogs, projects, and challenges, you name it. Leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to make them. As always, follow me on my social media. All the links are in the description below. That's gonna do it for another video. Hope you're having another great day. And as always, I hope to see all of you again in another video very soon. Stay positive, everybody.